Hello there. Um, this is a fairly unusual video. Not gonna lie. I could maybe wish the video come out a wee sooner, but I still don't think it should make that much difference. It's a shame that my phone is not able to capture realistic lighting right now because this makes it look way brighter than it actually is. The sun is setting right now, and I'm just seeing I'm seeing the pink, the purple, the beauty, there's some really, really cool. I don't know how well you can see it, but the orange over there on the horizon, it's really pretty, and it feels really nice right now. So, and I'm just doing it in pajamas. I don't really make very many videos in pajamas. I brought my phone charger out here too, because I don't know how long it's gonna be. My phone's currently at like 73% or something like that. I don't know. I might take the sweater off because it is a little warmer out here than it is inside, but we'll see. Oh, you're kidding me. Damn it. Broke off. Okay, good. It's reattachable. Okay, if I can just figure out how to get it on. There we go. I don't know. I was trying to get through that. I'm trying to set up my tripod here. It was acting up. It's being weird. I kind of wish I could hold it in this view, but unfortunately it doesn't do that. And plus I'm already recording it in so whatever this mode is, I forget what it's called. Don't mind the might take me a minute or two to really get this set up or something, oh, just give me a minute. Sorry about that. Come on. I can give you permission to do that. I'm like, come on, lean back. Lean back. I don't need you. Come on. Oh my God. Holy fuck. Thing's being difficult. Okay, I think that should work. So anyways, yes, happy Mother's Day. So yeah, today it is May 10th, I think it is, or 11th, I forget when it is, something like that. Well, I think 10th was yesterday, because today is Sunday night. So yeah. Well, anyways, yeah, so today I went to church, and and it was nice. I had some snacks there, like they normally do. I don't really know what any of the stuff was other than the strawberries and yogurt, which was okay. It was pretty nice. But the other stuff that they had, it wasn't. Normally they'd have stuff that was a little on the sweeter side. Almost nothing there except for the strawberries and yogurt was sweet. So I was a little surprised by that. I didn't really like it too much today, but I still appreciate they had some stuff. I'm very grateful to get to try a bunch of different little things there. Nice people and all that too. Very nice, lovely little church. Well, anyways, so yeah, had that, and then me and my dad, we got groceries, came back here, we unpacked those, put all that stuff up, right, and then I don't have to put in my water bottle. And then right, and then like right over here is a little, it's not mushy, but it that's a little weird trying to find the rest, but here feels a little bit more solid. All right. Yeah. So, anyways, right. I had that. I'm gonna take this thing off. It's too fucking warm out here for this. I would put it on the ground, but I don't really want bugs and all that crawling over it, so I'm just gonna wrap it around my shoulders here. I mean, my shoulders. What am I saying? my hips. So, anyways, hopefully there's not any mossies out here. Yes, that's the Australian word for mosquitoes. Don't know if there is any. Haven't really seen any recently. Hopefully they stay away, but we'll see how long they'll last for. So, anyways, yeah, so we had all that stuff, and then we watched some Ted Lasso for last couple of hours. His family, which is pretty nice, it's entertaining. Watched the whole first season. Actually, literally just finished it not too long ago. So, how long has this been? Oh, like 6 minutes. I thought it was a little longer, but alright. I mean, I can't see from here, but the sky there's a really pretty sort of like raspberry pink sort of color there. It's really nice. The light that I'm kind of seeing there in the sky. Yes, I mean I said it's already, but it's really pretty. It kind of makes me think back to kind of seeing some like really pretty like stained glass, sculptures or like windows or something, or like plenty of evenings that I used to have back in well, I don't know if I want to say where it is or not, but yeah, back in this smaller town me and my family used to live in many years ago here in Kentucky. Not really too far away from here, but it's probably about like an hour and a half, something like that. I don't know. I don't drive. I don't know. I don't really know how to estimate distance particularly well. Probably a skill I should try to learn. Well, anyways, so yeah, we saw. We'd have plenty of times where we'd be going outside, right, and we'd be eating some s'mores or playing games, or whatever, with our, some of our neighbors, right, and people living right next door, and they're super friendly, and it's funny, and I really like that. I do. I don't want to kind of just want to go back to that time necessarily, but it would be very interesting to kind of, you know, relive some of those memories or see them again or something like that. I don't know. Like I say, I just had a bunch of different sort of thoughts kind of swirling around in my mind, and I kind of thought I might try to be a little vulnerable and share some of these. I don't know how clear I am. I feel like I'm not very clear right now, and I'm really sorry about that. But I don't know, maybe I am. So, first one here is that I do feel I don't feel like I I don't feel like I necessarily 100% sort of like dread being an adult or anything like that. I think that there's a lot of things that I'm looking forward to, like studying abroad later this year, or to maybe making great friends, or um, you know um, perhaps having fun trips to different places, or maybe meeting future romantic partner of mine, you know maybe having children someday. I don't know. Maybe having them where they can have s'mores outside, or we can enjoy taking a trip somewhere, or watching a movie or something. I don't know. But I do I do feel like there's a lot ahead of me, and again, I don't think that's all bad, but it just feels like there's a lot to process. There's a lot to think about. There's a lot of emotions that I'm gonna have, and I think I can deal with those. But I think it will be. I think there'll be a lot of hard times. There's gonna be a lot of hard moments. I think it'll be. I think sometimes it might feel overstimulating for myself, right? And I'm kind of like, I'm trying to like ground myself. And I think that sometimes I've really needed that. I think that sometimes when I've been stressed, I'm glad that this my freshman year of college, right? Really not too long ago, you know, you know, just a little over a week ago, which is crazy, but still, right? Um, right, that I had a lot of daily walk videos, and I think that that's something that I feel like I'm glad that I did. I'm also kind of, I don't know if scared is the right word, but I feel like I'm glad that I have something to kind of hold on to of my freshman year. I know that it wasn't particularly exciting. I know there's probably certain opportunities that I could have taken, maybe, or I don't know, maybe I'm just imagining. I don't know. And I feel like there's probably going to be a part of me that maybe always feels like that there's something that I didn't do, or opportunities that I missed, and that I'm going to mourn that in some way. Not like physically, having some big ritual and, crying and wearing all black or anything like that. Probably not, but I mean, but still. Um, and I don't know. I guess I'm trying to kind of just exist, be in this time, and just live with the things that I'm going to experience. And I don't say this because something, horrible is happening, or anything like that, right? Nothing really is, in that sense, right? But it doesn't deny the fact that it still feels like there's going to be a lot of new things, and I haven't always been honest with this about myself because, I want to feel like I don't know what I'm saying here. I'm scared of change. It's unsettling to me, and it doesn't mean that I don't experience a lot of excitement around it sometimes, because I do, right? Opportunities to go to different places, right? Whether that be, us moving to a new home, which probably wouldn't even really be that far away from here, but, still, right, new home. Or, the times before where, where I've changed from one school level to the next, right? I went from, middle school to high school, or high school to college, right? Or that, I've, dealt with, you know, um, these things that present themselves along the way. And I don't think that all change is bad. I think there's a lot of really good change. And I don't think that I'm blind to that. I think that there's a lot of good change. But I think for me, it's not so much that I'm worried about there being change. I think that a change in any form can feel emotionally like it's hard to process because I like feeling control over my life. I like feeling control over things. I wouldn't say that I'm a controlling person because I don't. I do not really take very much pleasure in trying to figure out and tell people what to do. But I mean, I like control, and I like to feel that sort of sense of maybe not so much like stability in the traditional sense of like everything's going to be this exact same all the time. I don't know, maybe it is, but um, right. I like to feel that I have that autonomy. I like to feel like things are going the way that I want to, or at least that it doesn't feel overwhelming to me. You know, and life doesn't exactly work like that, and I know that. And that's okay, right? There's a lot of things that I can't control, a lot of things that I have to put my faith in, right? I have to put my faith in that the work that I do this summer, right? And I'll be trying to do some kind of work stuff with my dad at his job tomorrow, which I think will probably be fine. But not is it not it's not only just waking up early during like during at 6 or something like that whenever I decide, probably, or maybe like 6:15 or something, I don't know, right? Because we have to leave at 7, right? When I want to wake up at 8 or 9, or maybe even closer to like 10 or 11, sometimes too, right? um but it's not just waking up early during the summer. It's not just um having to pack my lunch instead of having someone else make something for me, right? It's not just it's not about me um right. I don't know if it's necessarily one specific aspect, but it does. I am afraid somewhat that I just don't know how the summer's gonna go, and I don't think it's gonna turn out poorly. But you know, this is a very normal thing, right? But you know, um, I came back. I mean, I've been home a good few times throughout the school year, for breaks and all that, but it doesn't feel the same to me. And it's not a bad thing. No one here changed for the worse. My family has been doing well, right? My pets are basically still the same, right? As far as I remember, you know. But I've had, you know, months now not being here for most of that time. And it still feels kind of, I don't want to say jarring. I feel like that's too harsh, maybe too violent of a way of putting it. Nothing violent has happened at all, really. Um, maybe other than, you know, our dogs just barking really loudly at each other or something, like they always do when they're playing outside, right? Um, you know, it feels jarring, and I know that it is such a normal thing for people around my age at this point in their lives to, right, they're going out and they're starting to work, full time. They're starting to work full time. And I don't know, I don't think that I fear actually doing work. I don't think I fear waking up early ish, you know, or making my own food. I don't think I fear any of those things. I think I fear not feeling some sort of autonomy, perhaps. I don't know if that's the right word for it, but some kind of autonomy or something like that over this next, I don't know, month and a half, or I don't, however long it is, maybe maybe closer to 2 months, something like that, I suppose. Probably closer to 2 months, I think. I don't know, right? And who knows? I could come back out here, or maybe in my room in a couple days, maybe heck, maybe tomorrow night. I could just completely be like, everything's fine or whatever, and it's just normal, and I'm just living it and it's okay. And hopefully, in some sense, I hope for that. I pray for that. Um, but I don't know. I feel like I don't think that this would really. I don't think this would really change necessarily if I was to work in a certain city or state or with a certain business or a different country or something like that. I think I would still probably fundamentally feel similar, if not the same, to what I do right now. And that is, you know, I feel like I don't think that I don't think that I would not describe myself as an entitled person. And I really try not to be. But I feel like that there's this sort of thing in me where I feel like that you know, right, I tried to be responsible when I was a kid. Now, no, sure, I wasn't going out and doing all the, the big social responsibility stuff. Like I wasn't really part of like a big club or charity or something, or something, or trying to make all kinds of big social change or something. I don't know, whatever it is I'm thinking of, right? You know, I didn't really feel like I was part of a community that was enacting something. I think I felt most of the time I felt kind of just lonely, sort of. I didn't feel lonely in the depressive sense, I don't think, but I didn't feel like I really was part of something with a lot of other people, and I still don't I still don't feel like am entirely. I feel like I mean, maybe it's just me right now, but like I'm starting to maybe see fragments of that, and they're very shaky. They're very loose. They're very sort of just sharp cut edges of something just all around the place, you know, and but they're there. They exist. Maybe this thing is much stronger than I give it credit for, but it anyways, I don't know what went off with that. Maybe I'll get back to more on that. But right, right, I felt right. I tried to be pretty responsible. Right? I tried to make sure ask did if my parents need anything, right? To help take care of chore stuff, right? To I felt bad. I felt bad for a very long time. Not like every single day from every single moment to moment, right? But I've normally where I feel like a lot of my people around my age at this point in their lives, they'd be asking their parents, hey, can we get, they're begging their parents for like the newest iPhone, right? Or, or Jordans, or, or to, go out to parties every, weekend or something. I've literally almost never asked my parents if I can go to a party. I mean, I've gone to a few. I've gone to the proms. I had two of those, right? In my 11th and 12th grade, years of high school, right? And I had I had a few random school dances in middle school or high school, but, besides those, right? I've been a homebody, and honestly, I don't think I ever really felt at peace with that because I felt like you know i I feel like I'm supposed to want to do new things. I feel like I'm supposed to want to try to do new things. I feel embarrassed because I feel like if I'm to have friends, that I gotta try new things. And that's not always been a strong suit of mine. Going into new environments with tons of new people that I don't know, while sometimes I feel perfectly fine with it, sometimes that does make me feel quite anxious. It makes me feel like, you know, how am I supposed to act? What am I supposed to do or to say? Or what emotions am I supposed to be? I'm supposed to be feeling this sort of sense of happiness and joy and excitement that most other people seem to be having. Right? When you go, like, for example, when you go to a sports event, right? You go to a stadium, right? You see tons of people, cheering and probably having maybe not like the time of their life or something, right? But they're having a very good experience. They're feeling that, and I can't seem to be a part of that. And sometimes in my life, when I feel like I'm almost there, I sort of, in my mind, I kind of reject it. I can't really fully believe that it's like actually happening. And I start to feel that detachment. I start to feel like, okay, this is not real. This is not real. What's the catch? What am I missing? What's the negative thing that's going to happen after? Because I feel like I'm going to have something go wrong, or I'm going to get hurt. Rather, I'm going to get hurt emotionally in a really raw and painful way after. And I don't even fucking know where or why I have this. I don't know why this is my mind. I don't know why I feel like I'm supposed to fix tons of people's problems. I don't know why. No one in my family or at school has ever said these kind of things to me. And yet somehow they exist in me. Somehow these exist in my mind. Somehow these exist for me. And I don't know how. I genuinely do not know how. And it's frustrating. I also want to feel like that. I don't know. This is all just kind of getting jumbled, but screw it. Right. I want to feel like I have a wonderful life, and I don't know what that's gonna look like. I still have so much of it ahead of me, right? But I don't know what kind of content is in it. I fear that not every moment, I don't think about this most of the day, but it comes and goes in my mind, right? I fear that for every step that I take, every small thing that I do, I'm taking 2 steps back, right? Or that every attempt I make at, okay, I'm gonna move this because there's some bugs moving over around here, kind of annoying me. Right. It feels like for every little thing that I manage to try to get myself to do, push myself to do, it feels like that's really easy for most other people to do. Like they can just easily do it. They do it way more frequently, higher for a longer duration, a higher intensity. They can just do it easily. And I don't know, maybe and I'm probably and I know that's an illusion. I know that that's an illusion because I know that other people suffer too, and I know that there's a lot of people who who also feel that way. and I'm also kind of ashamed to admit this, but you know, sometimes I feel, so I shitting do not know why, but sometimes I feel like when, when I hear, right, that, people are like, oh, I've experienced that too, right? I mean, yeah, sometimes it feels refreshing to me to hear that. Sometimes it feels like, it can feel very reaffirming, and there's definitely a lot of times in my life that this happened, for sure. Okay, you piece of shit. I don't know why you decided to do that, but whatever. But there are times where, I don't know, maybe it's just in my head. Maybe it truly just is in my head to think this or whatever. I'm sorry about the whole thing. I don't know why I decided to do that. Right, it can feel like, I don't know. Maybe I'm misunderstanding. But it can feel like, I don't know. It can feel sometimes like when people are like, "Oh, I experienced that too." It can just feel like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I guess it's just a basic problem. It's just a basic boring thing, and I'm just another, random average person, that nothing that I can do or say would make me stand out in any way, or make me feel distinguishable." Right, and I'm not saying this because I'm trying to like chase like, physical like trophies or awards or or something like that, right? What I'm trying to say is that I want to feel like my story, my life, is not, it doesn't. I don't mean maybe necessarily in 100% every single way. I think that's unrealistic. I'm okay with not being 100%, but it could feel, sometimes it can feel to me like that's just, it's what would probably be normally interpreted as acceptance can feel kind of like dismissal to me, and I don't think it's actually other people doing. I think that's just my own internal reframing of that. I mean, I just think, well, if I experience the same problem as tons of other people, then like I'm supposed to be having like a bigger, like a more intense thing that I'm doing, or part of, like, like, this is part of the whole thing where like I kind of agree about being like, with my story thing. I haven't made videos on that really, but the main one that I've had in my mind for the last, I don't know, 2-3 years, something like that, right? It's this whole like, it's basically about, this alien. If you ever watched like Stargate SG-1 or whatever, it's kind of like, yeah, this character here is kind of like the Tok'ra, right? If you haven't, just look that up. I'm not gonna explain it entirely. Well, so anyways, right? So it's basically well, there's actually two main characters, but it's kind of share the same body and all that, right? So one of them, human character, very similar characteristics and all that to myself. Not 100%, mind you, but somewhat similar things, that kind of stuff, right? Kind of me, I suppose. And then the other one being, right, this alien kind of thing, or, kind of. It's not they're not a parasite or whatever, but they go into the body of, the human, right? They're a host or whatever, right? And it's non-creep and all that. They're also like microorganisms, all that. They're actually very, very have tons of very positive effects, all that. For example, like strengthening immune system and like memory, and just a whole bunch of other stuff, right? So this alien here, part of a super advanced, if not the most advanced, species in the universe, right? And most of them live in this galaxy, far away. I know, Star Wars thing there, much, right? And it's the whole thing where kind of like whole superhero idea thing where like most people don't know that this human, and their name is Adrian, right? they don't know that Adrian is actually the host to, this fucking insanely OP alien, right? Celestro, that's what I've named him, right? Right, who has power over, purple light. Right, this whole, this alien species, right? They control their elemental power is that they control light, and then they just have different, you know, versions of those that control different shades of light, and those are kind of organized into their own different, tribes, countries, regions of the, their galaxies, stuff like that, right? There's the purple ones, right? They're the very last color. They're also the rarest. They have very few. They have a very small population, all that, right? But they're also, you know, they also have a lot of really good characteristics, right? They're very, you know, um, they really try to do the right thing. They're very moral, right? They're also really smart and resilient, and a lot of, a lot of people of the other types of their species, right? The other colors, they vary. Most of the time, they underestimate, the sort of silent strength of the purples. And the kind of one of the things here is that they kind of be like, ba boom, bitches, right? Whatever. And they're kind of like, we're actually secretly like the most OP out of all of you guys, but we just don't tell anyone, right? And well, I don't mean like in a braggy sort of way, but it's just sort of like, excitement kind of thing, being like, oh, I'm part of like the most, powerful, whatever, and it's like a whole secretive thing, and it's like, well, boom, bitches, you never would have expected that, huh? Right? And especially the whole part too, where, right, Adrian kind of feels this sort of thing of like, wow, right? I can do way more than any other human in the entire history of humanity could ever do, right? By themselves, right? And it's fucking insane. And he does some really big ass shit. Saves a whole bunch of people, the whole world, even a couple times. Builds like super massive structures, like within matter of days instead of months or years, right? By himself and all that kind of stuff. Super badass moments. You know, we're also just kind of like mysterious and like really smart. And you got like really cool. You got tons of knowledge. You got super cool, all that stuff, right? Super chill, right? They're pretty pretty intense, but also kind of like laid back and all that, right? Super cool. And right, as they're dealing with these sort of very different problems and all that, and it feels like, wow, okay, this is cool. Like I'm part, not in a elitist like, oh, everyone else is worse, bad. That's not what I mean. That's not what I. If it is part of this, that's not what I focus on. But I like to feel like, hey, right, I'm really powerful. I have a ton of stuff. I'm doing really good things with that, and also enjoying some very insanely cool personal benefits, right? People think I'm like super chill, right? I'm super smart. I got tons of skill. It's practically impossible to kill me. Not invulnerable, but really hard to kill. All these kind of good things. I'm kind of just like, this is the life, right? But I know it's just a story thing. I compare myself to that, and I feel like I'm stuck in this. I don't think that I'm like ugly, but I'm stuck in this wet piece of meat sack, right? That I can easily have my skin pierced, cut. I can easily bleed, right? I can easily be hurt by, what people say or whatever's in the environment, right? And I'm right. We humans, we're not, compared to a lot of other animals, right? We're not strong, we're not fast, right? I mean, we're not weak or slow, but comparatively, we are a lot. That's not our greatest strengths, right? You know, our greatest strength is our brain. But I feel like, at this point, like, we've already invented a shit ton of stuff. We're not, at least here, and I'm not saying this for everywhere in the world, but right, in a lot of places in the world, it just kind of feels like, okay, well, a lot of people have already done the heavy lifting of, basically setting up all kinds of things for most people to be able to survive, well, and even thrive, a little bit, right? We have plenty of food and water and houses and clean air and clean clothes and all kinds of stuff, right? Stuff to work your ass off for a lot of this stuff, right? But, right, you're not in the caveman times. You're not, trying to fight for your life, you know, like a caveman, or the tribes, or something like that, right? Or at least hopefully you're not. But, um, you know, um, so it kind of just feels like my sort of, it's like we'd be like our struggle to advance or whatever. Like, basically, with the whole idea thinking here is that, like, as societies get more advanced, right, the cap to say the where you relatively put that this is the person who makes the breakthrough, person who makes a big change, person who revolutionizes the way that things are in some way, right? It gets harder and harder and harder to be that person, because if you're raising the average level of knowledge, if you're raising the standards of living, if you're raising the standards of, skill sets, of, of all kinds of things, which is good. I'm really glad. I would very much prefer to live in this time than most, if not any point in history before this, right? But still, it feels harder to. The point for me is not that it would have to be like one specific thing or another. But I guess what I'm trying to say, and I guess I'm really just kind of getting my own sort of perspective in this, and I realize it just sounds maybe really weird, but it's like, right, it's like, what can I do? And there's a lot of things I can do, but I mean, what could I do? What would I have to be in order to meet that level, to make something that's so big, right, and to also hold on to that position for a very, very long time, so that way no one else can even remotely begin to compare to that achievement, or to that thing that I discovered or invented or did for people. And I don't know. I guess what I'm asking fundamentally is that what will my legacy be? Will I even have really mattered or made much of a difference? And then don't just give me the bull crap of, well, everyone makes a difference. Every small thing. I mean, yeah, duh. But, it's like, it's hard to feel enthusiastic about that when, you want more, when you want to feel like you had a great life, when you want to feel like you meant something, when you have high standards, for yourself, when you have high hopes and dreams, and you dream about, as I have, if you dream about, a world that, Earth or otherwise, right, that is exceedingly beautiful and is vivid, and it's, and there's, all sorts of very insanely, impressive, architecture and languages and um right, and all sorts of very fine and very clean and very holy sort of experiences to have had, right? Like trying certain types of foods, or going and seeing certain places, right? Or certain rituals, or um, you know, um, I don't know, all kinds of things, right? Or especially for me, right, feeling like, you know, having this sort of not just, you know, romantic relationship, but having that with whoever she is, right, feel like a fucking myth, like a fucking, like, like these, legends, that you'd have, right, that these, that there's these sort of very intense psychological experiences, right, and it's part of some, great grand story or something, right, and it's like, you do what you do. Where the fuck do I find these people? How fucking long will it take that to happen? Right? It feels like, yes, I can ask people questions. Yes, I can try to get people to think. And yes, I think probably just about anyone is probably capable of all these things. But how fucking long do you have to wait? Right? I know I'm only 18, getting close to 19. But I don't feel young entirely. Some parts, some things, yes. I don't entirely resonate with, you know, like, for example, baby boomers or something, right? Or Gen X or whatever. But, I don't. Will you stop it? I swear. I don't. I feel like my time is precious. My time is limited, and sometimes I just try to be like, well, no, I'm fine, right? And then you just take things chill, I'll be slow, right? Enjoy time and all that. But that, to me, that sort of messaging, that sort of it just feels like just a way to just, pretend, or to just ignore the inevitable, right? That life is short, and we're all just gonna fucking die anyways, right? That we're all, that it moves so fast. It's like sand in a bottle with a hole at the bottom. You can't, and you can't, no matter how much pressure you might try to put on the bottom with your fingers, right? You can't stop it. It will just happen, and it will go, and it will be out, and I'll just feel anxious. I'm afraid I'm just gonna feel anxious the whole time for my life. I'm afraid that it's like, I'm just trying to rush to just get everything done. I'm trying to rush to make, not just be productive. I mean this existentially, right? To make grand pieces of art or music, or to make a great scientific discovery, or to, you probably can't see me too well, so probably just rely on the voice thing. Probably haven't been able to see me too well for a while now, but sorry about that. It's dark, so, But, it's like, I can't control time. I can try to control my body, or the spaces that I'm in, right? And yeah, sometimes, right, making sure that I, eat, sleep, drink, maybe I declutter my environment, maybe, I go socialize. All these things can and do help, right? And sometimes it's a lot stronger effect than others. But it still sometimes feels like this feeling comes back to me of like, I can't stop it. I can't make it go slower. I'm afraid that I'm not going to have it. And that sooner or later, you know, death will greet me. And things will just be over. Right? You know, my free trial of life, of existence is over. Right? It's gone. That I wasted that I didn't get the opportunity to feel this, you know, beautiful, transcendent, you know, love. Or to, you know, do all the things that I could have or should have said. And I don't even fucking know what most of those things would be. I don't actually know, right, what things, you know, see, or that's, you know, maybe it's just FOMO speaking. Maybe it's just my fear of missing out or feeling like that I'm never going to be able to see everything that exists. Meet every person that's alive and know their names and know their stories. It's never going to happen. And I just have to deal with that. I just have to accept that. And it feels so much. And it feels so uncertain. And, you know, and even if there is an afterlife, right? And we just, you know, live forever after that. It's life is still precious. It's still, you know, it's still meaningful in some way, I feel like. It's you only get it once. Right? And I don't want to waste it. But I don't know what the fuck to do. I know I like to play games or watch TV. You know? I like to, you know, I've had a lot of times where I look stuff up online about, you know, personality types, you know, where I ask ChatGPT questions about all kinds of stuff, right? You know, where I try to, you know, enjoy these things, and they are nice. I enjoy. You know, and I'm not gonna, and because I don't think that, you know, just having nice food or sex or anything like that is going to fill that. I don't think it would. Right? I don't expect those to. Right? I do recognize that I have a need for those. You know, these physical things, these physical needs. They are very much a part of my life, my existence. But I don't expect that I'm going to. Sorry, I have to drink water. I don't expect that those things are going to make me ultimately feel the most satisfied in life. But I'm also afraid that, you know, how much time I might have to spend working, you know, or taking care of chores. Or if I ever have family, God forbid. Right? There's so much things you have to do that are non-negotiable. Just trying to meet the bottom part of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. When the fuck am I ever going to have time to pursue the highest levels? To pursue self-actualization? To pursue, you know, great joys in life and things like that? If I'm just trying to scrape by, if I'm this close, I can't see, I'm this fucking close to, at any given moment in time. Do you know how dreadful that feels? Like how insane that I don't know, maybe you get it. I mean, I don't know, I'm probably over exaggerating. I'm probably, you know, I'm probably just letting my fear get the best of me right now. I'm not gonna lie. I've let that do it before a lot of times, way more than I'm proud to admit. But, which would be none, really. But whatever, you know what I mean, right? And, you know, I think, and I hear these things sometimes from other people, or I look up things from my personality type, or maybe some kind of way that I could grow perhaps in life. It's just to accept the fact that I don't know shit. And that, yes, I think I already accepted the fact that, sometimes there's a lot of things that I really exciting. I like learning things sometimes, right? I don't like learning about everything. There's a lot of stuff I really find super boring or interesting. It's just, just average stuff. Like why the fuck should I care about that, right? I don't care about sports really. I mean, I care about the effects it has, right? I can see why people are interested. I can see the emotional things that it does, but the physical stuff itself, I don't really care. I don't really care about. At the end of the day, I don't really care too much about a person's jobs, or their financial status, right? How much money do they fucking make every year? I mean, sure, cool. A lot of these things are, they're, these sort of ways that people, in society, at least in American society today, usually, measure themselves by. A lot of things, yeah, I mean, it's not, I'm not going to deny that, you know, making, six figures is impressive. It definitely is. I'm not going to pretend like it's not, right? That would be fucking insane. But the point is, I know that that's not I think it's not the end. It's not the just because we have you know external sources of stability does not mean that we will have internal freedom. It does not guarantee that our lives will be you know happy or successful, whatever that may look like for you or me, right? I mean, we can even see this through science, right? We can even see that we have some tons that even tons of people who are rich, who have great resources, right? Who grew up in very privileged environments, like myself, perhaps, right? You know, I am very privileged, right? I'm not fucking rich, but I'm compared to a lot of other people, I'm definitely living pretty well, right? I've been in very fortunate circumstances with a lot of things, right? But it doesn't guarantee that these people are going to feel like an elevated sense of happiness, right? Or it's like when you look at when people trying to buy stuff, right? Having more things does not make a person happier, right? Or, or yes, having more money can make a person feel happier, but to a point. It's a lie to admit that it doesn't have an effect. It's a lie to think that it's false to think that right these physical things don't matter. They do, but they're step one, right? And life is not just it should not just be, at least the way I think it should not just be a game for competing eternally for step one, because it's so much shorter than that's so much more that's so much more compressed. Weird choice, I know, of words, than it could ever be. It's so much smaller and not as big or cool or wondrous as it could be. And it just feels like to me like how how do I'm not going to give up trying. Will you stop? I swear. Right, I'm not going to take the easy way out and just you know myself, or just take drugs to delude myself or something, right? I'm not gonna do that. I don't think that that's a viable solution, right? And I will keep on hoping. I will keep on dreaming. I will keep on imagining. If that's the least that I can do. If that's the least that I can do to feel like that these things that I, these emotional experiences that I'd like to have do exist somewhere out there at some point in my life. If they do exist, they are possible, right? That I'm not crazy. It's not just a figment of imagination. And I don't know. I mean, maybe it's maybe it's entirely possible that the shit's been staring at me in the face, and maybe I just need to be more open to new experiences. Maybe I should just fucking try more things. Maybe, I should try to make more friends, go to more places, do these things, because maybe they do hold that key. Maybe they do lead me somewhere. But then again, I kind of get back into FOMO. Again, I feel like, what am I missing out? What am I not doing? And that's not helpful either. And I don't know, and it's just a whole question of balance, right? It's just, you balance spending time, with stability things, and you spend time with novelty things. I mean, okay, makes sense, right? But there's no equation to that in life. There's no, z equals, 2, 2x plus 3y. It's not a mathematical equation. Maybe for some people it is. I don't know. Could be, right? If you're very, very, routine, very, very, very highly structured sort of person, maybe maybe the fuck I am. I don't know. Maybe that's what would work for me. I don't know. But I don't know. And I don't expect my audience to have things. I wouldn't expect, there's no fucking, reasonable way that I could think that would be the case. But it's still a question that's on my mind. I think it's on a lot of people's minds. I don't know. Maybe maybe there's just I don't know. I feel like I'm always missing something. There's always some kind of insight or perspective I'm not seeing. Something I'm blind to. I don't. Maybe my blind spot is that I trying to look for, what's not there, or I don't immediately see that I missed the obvious. I don't know. Could be. Maybe I'm wrong. But I don't know. I mean, and then again, I'm just some random. If I really try to get into my head right now, I'm just some random, 18, almost 19-year-old, white American boy, and not in the fucking middle of night, but it's definitely nighttime, right? And I'm just ranting in front of my phone about a bunch of shit, from my own very privileged point of view, while I, stare at the moon in the night sky while wearing pajamas, and drinking water, right? And, that's a very, that's literally what I'm doing right now. That is literally what I'm doing right now. But I don't know. Sometimes it's very hard for me to get out of my own head. Sometimes it feels, people just say like, oh, just live in the moment. Well, I try to. I genuinely try to. It's not impossible, but it's really fucking hard. Good analogy is like, if you're trying to scrape gum off, if you're not so bad one. If you're trying to, okay, if you imagine whatever the stickiest substance right? I don't know. We'll just say substance A in this case. Yeah, I know, lame, but whatever. Just bear with me. Right? I mean, if you already give me this much of your time, thank you. You're already bearing with me, anyways. Not quite very much. You know, I mean, you could be choosing to do absolutely anything else. There's no reason for you to choose. You know, listening to me rant. If anyone does ever watch this video, besides myself, probably at some future point, thank me whenever I am. Like, I don't know what the fuck I'm saying, but right, it feels like, you know, so like I'm I'm my I don't know. I'm this sort of very, very sticky substance. And I'm stuck onto this hard surface, right? Um, and it's not 100% solid, but it's not liquid. It's definitely not 100% liquid, right? And completely free flowing and smooth and all that either, right? And you try to pull on it, and it budges a little bit, it stretches a little bit, right? But you have to try really, really fucking hard. You have to put an insane amount of pressure on that thing, and probably get a machine that can pull at a really high intensity, pull at a really very high strength to yank that out and pull it, and for me to, in this case, to feel like I am part of, like I'm not just an observer. I'm not just seeing things as they go. I'm not just, and I don't think I completely feel like I'm an observer. I do recognize that my actions have consequences. And sometimes reality does feel a lot more real to me than others. But it feels hard for me not to slip back into, very, very quickly, to back into, I'm kind of just, gear shift back, and now I'm thinking again. I can't not think. I can't not, stare off and watch things and feel kind of like, kind of jarring if people try to offer me to be able to join into something, or to try new things. This has happened a lot of times in my life, or even a new thing, or even things that I've said that I was gonna do, right? But I don't know. I'm really just getting over myself here, and I'm sorry. I genuinely hope that there's someone out there besides future myself who will watch this video, who will watch other things that I've made and I've talked about, these big hard feelings that I've had, and that I'm not crazy, I'm not alone in this, that please, if by some miracle, one of my greatest friends, or my future wife, wherever the fuck these people are, if they could just somehow, by some sheer chance, come across this. Because I don't fucking have a clue how the hell I'm gonna meet them. Or where I'm gonna meet them. Or what their names are. I wanna know for certain if I am going to meet them, even if I don't know anything about them. Just that alone, that they do exist, or that I will meet them for certain, even if I absolutely nothing else beyond that, at least that much, right? That's something. But I don't even know if they do. I don't even know if, it's kind of random and all that. You probably won't even be able to see it that well. Maybe you just have to look it up, but Yeah, I recently got myself this Lego Me figure. Actually, just a couple days ago, earlier this week. I think it was on like, I don't know, it was like Tuesday or Wednesday or something. I don't know, whatever it was, Monday maybe. I don't know, something like that. Yes, I got this Lego Me figure, a bunch of other random stuff too, but probably can't even really see it that well. But yeah, this, I just look up the emo spooky girl minifigure on Amazon. That's what this is. Wait, so I got this, and you know, I don't, I don't think it really matters to be this one particular, right? But hopefully, this kind of, I don't, maybe something makes sense. The brain's hurting a little bit, but right, recently, and recently, as in the last, I don't know, 2 weeks. 2, 3 weeks? I don't know. However long. Really not a really long period of time. Right. I kind of thought, I'm right. I'd like to be with, this sort of. I'm attracted to, sort of like, you know, would it be like this mysterious, you know, alternative perhaps, you know, dark-haired, very quiet, very intuitive, you know, um, sort of, right, very dark dressed, aesthetic, right, sort of woman, right, and all that, right, that's sort of what I felt like that I've really been attracted to. I think for a long time, regardless of like the physical aesthetic, or something like that, right? I think that I've kind of, if I don't want to, I'm not really particular on like, ooh, my friends or future partners think I have a specific personality type or anything, right? You know, um, but kind of just an example type here, right? You could say maybe like like what, like an INFJ, like 4, like Enneagram 4, right? That might very well kind of describe the sort of persona, right, that I'm attracted, that I have. I feel like that I've been attracted to a lot of the sort of characteristics for a very long time. Right? I've been attracted, I've always really liked the idea of, that, she has a very high emotional touch. She's able to read me really well. She's very, very intuitive. She kind of just knows a lot of things in ways that I can't even really fully comprehend or understand. Right? She has this sort of control itself over time, right? And she's able to read into these things in a way that really stretches beyond just my, my bits of, I mean, I'm not a, maybe I am, but, logic or reasoning or whatever, right? And really stretches into these sort of, very abstract, very sensual, emotional areas or something like that, right? You know, um, right, able to, that, they're very patient, they're kind, that they, um, I don't know, they're really able to see a lot of really big potential in the way that things go, right? That they, they're very deep. They're very, they have a lot of complexity. They're very, striking and bold in their own ways, right? All these sort of things and more probably that I've forgotten to say or whatever, but it kind of gives you a big picture, kind of just general idea, I suppose, something like that, hopefully. Right, the sort of some different things that I've felt interested or attracted to, and um, you know, I'm just like, you know, where do I where do I where do I meet her? Right, where do I do that? I think I'm a lot less worried with friendships because I think for me, with friends, it feels like I'm, I'm more willing to be friends with a lot more people, or also because like there's no like cap on that, right? But with the romantic stuff, it's like I want to have this with like you know very it's very very selective, right? With friendships, it's a lot more open. It's a lot more well because you have different types of friends, right? And you share different things, you do different you have different experiences and all that, right? And they're not right. I don't know how to put it, but it's like I can be friends with just about anybody, right? If I really wanted to. But for a romantic sexual partner, right? Or two or three or something like that, I don't know, depending on how things go, right? Um, right, that's long term. I want to, I want to be with someone that is not just physically, attractive. I mean, yes, that's definitely a factor, right? I don't want to be with someone that looks ugly, but you know right, I want her to have a very good personality. I want to think, are we long term compatible, right? Would we be able how well would we be able to do, you know between things like humor, politics, conflict, parenting, experiences, how would we make decisions about stuff, right? All these kind of things and a lot more. That's a very big part of it, right? I want to know, is this a person that I trust, that I feel is not that I not only can just tell stuff to, but they are excited, that they're interested in a lot of things that I am too, right? That they love to hear my thoughts and they have plenty of their own, right? That she's able to, right, have these great conversations, with me, right? And it doesn't really feel like, I don't know, it doesn't really feel like I can get that with a ton of people, right? I feel like if I really wanted to, I'd probably have to like wait most of a person's life before I even get one or two opportunities to really do that because I mean understandably so, right? People I feel like are I mean, it's just part of our nature and all that, right? We're very sensitive. We know it is hard for us to um for a lot of people to you know expose themselves to be vulnerable. I mean that's a very courageous thing you have to do, right? You have to be very open to it. You have to be very, and that takes a lot out of a person to do, right? And I don't know. I don't want to push someone to be something that they're not ready to be or to do or have. Right. I still do, excuse me. It doesn't mean I don't want to have them. And I feel like a lot of the times when I try to ask people about different ideas and whatnot, I feel like I don't know, maybe I underestimate how much people would actually like this kind of stuff or, want it or whatever. Maybe I just have a bad sense of time. Maybe I'm just rushing it or something. But I don't know, maybe it just feels sometimes like I said, it's hard to get that out of people. It just feels like it's hard to get anything more than just substance. That's it's anything more than just shallow topics or conversations or answers out of people. Um, all right, and You know, and if I want to be with someone, I want to feel like not so not much that they like say everything. I don't. The hard part, the paradox I feel like with that though is that I want to keep on learning. I want there to be continuously new things, new layers that I didn't know, and I feel ever so consider. I feel like I'm an eternal learner and explorer of the person or persons that I'd be with. Right, right. That there's still there's more mysteries, but at the same I simultaneously feel like I'm learning new things. Right, like in the early stages of romantic relationships, right, and the excitement of that, but simultaneously feeling quite close to trusting with, you know, open and vulnerable with, and all these good things, you know, with her, with them, right? And I don't know. I think that is possible. I think that that is a real thing. That does exist. I don't know. Maybe I just gotta be patient. Maybe, right? And everything in its due time, right? And I'm not gonna, right? And be, and part of my thing with whole romantic stuff is like, I don't want to rush that. I don't want to try to get that because I want it to feel, I want it to be I'll say the way that it's supposed to be. I don't know what that looks like though. I don't know what that means right off. Maybe I do, and intuitively, some way or another. But I don't know. So yeah, I don't have a watch. I mean, I don't know what time it is right now. Is this video? It's you know, an hour and 22 minutes. I honestly don't fucking know what the battery is on this thing. It's probably, I don't know, used up a lot. It definitely does when I make videos this long. And it should probably get going in before it gets, well, say too much darker, but it's already pretty dark out here, so. It does feel nice though. It does. I mean, yeah, I know when I'm in Sydney later this year, don't walk around at night, big city rules and all that stuff. So, yeah, I'll have to get used to that. But, although I don't think I'd really be the kind of person that, maybe I'm wrong. I don't think I'd be the kind of person to do that in a big city, anyways, because it might feel a little creepy to me, anyways. It does feel a little bit creepy. Not really like that much. It's pretty low level though. Right now, it's probably mostly just. I don't think there's any coyotes or anything around here. Unless if there is, they're probably like on the other side of the town or something. But I don't know. I haven't seen any around here. I haven't heard any stories about them, so probably not too weird. The most I'm experiencing right now is just a few annoying bugs flying around, but you know, whatever. They're harmless really to me, so mostly just slightly annoying, you know. But it is a pretty peaceful area out here. The breeze feels nice. I can hear some leaves rustling and that kind of stuff. I think it does honestly remind me. I think one thing that I've really liked with I think why I like evenings and nighttime a lot more than day is because they feel to me it feels more intimate. It feels more peaceful, quieter. It feels more in tune with parts of nature and sort of the sweet part of sleep. Right. You know, I'm not. Yeah. I'm not really that old, but sleep does feel very, very pleasant. to me most of the time. Right. I really like it. You know, I'm gonna do it at some point in the next couple hours. Right. I'll start doing it. But and I don't, I should probably, I shouldn't stay up too late. But I'm not too worried. I mean, I woke up at 6:30 to 7 or so during school days. I'm playing with 6, so not lovely. But and honestly, if it rains tomorrow, I might not even be going to work with him anyway, since most stuff they do is outside. They can't really do it if it's raining. So I mean, you could, but kind of a bad idea. So I'm really hoping it does. I'm really hoping it does. So that way, I can just go back to bed or just chill or something. But I mean, I'll be starting at some point this week, anyways. Unless it happens to rain every fucking day, but highly doubt that though. Could happen. Totally possible. Who knows? Kentucky weather is weird, you know. But it's back to the whole evening night thing. I don't think I ever really talked about it that much before. I don't know, maybe I have. But I had a lot of times, sometimes when I was like elementary school or something, right? And I was in my room, and I just be reading a book or listening to an audiobook or something like that in my bed for many hours on end, and I could just hear, the soft sounds of some machines in the house, like if there was laundry going on or dishes being washed or or something like that, right? Or even when I was at my grandma's house too, especially a lot of memories there as well. Or you know um, maybe we're just hearing the birds chirping outside, or the crickets or anything like that. It was very peaceful. I really loved that. And you know getting to experience that and just reading a book or something like that, I love that. This you don't have the social expectations and demands. It's just me, and the world is asleep, and I can hear the soft noises of nature, or peaceful machines or something like that, right? And I can just sort of feel this sort of like, there is this sort of, it's this is, unironically, it feels the most exciting part of the day. Right? I don't, it's I'm not antisocial. I don't think that, like, oh, all of the day is just boring. But to me, it's like, so the day, it is hot and tiring, and there's expectations, and there's tons of noise, right? And there's tons of trying to rush around, and you just feel tired. And you just feel tired by the expectations, the demands of other people, of the world, of trying to just get things done, being productive, right? And the heat and the energy of all of the social events going on. But at nighttime and evening, things settle down. Things feel right. There are things going on, but it's more selective. It's more cozy, right? Like getting to enjoy, wrapping yourself up in a couple, in a layer or two, and enjoying, um, a nice treat with some other people or by yourself, right? You know, getting to, enjoy that. And I hope I get to do that a lot more in my life. I hope that I get to experience that with, whoever my future romantic partner is, whoever she is. Um, anyways, I should probably get going in here. I mean, this has been an hour and You can barely at all even see anything on there. Just my hand waving by. It's just dark. You know, I probably really need to charge my phone. I gotta take a piss. But man, it does feel nice out here. And I know that I ranted a lot. I know I rant a lot in quite a few of my videos. I make a lot of complaints, I'm not gonna lie. But hopefully you enjoy this. Hopefully, you know, resonated with you. If you have any questions, thoughts, feel free to share them. Don't be a jerk though. You know, like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to my channel if you're feeling so inclined, if you want to see more stuff like this. I genuinely do not know what I'm gonna name this video yet. I could say summer sit-in, and I could totally get away with doing that. I mean, it is my own channel and all that, but is it a nighttime? And I didn't think ahead of time I was gonna be doing it in nighttime videos, but I didn't think I was not going to. It just didn't occur to me if I was or not. So I could be like, nighttime, you know, night talk. I don't know. Names are really talks. I'm just monologuing. I'm monologuing in almost all of my videos, if not all of them, except for some of the Minecraft ones. Right now I'm talking with like Yig, you know, or Relic or something like, you know, one of the people I play with, but no, or End or something like that. But you know, most of them, right? You know, most of my videos, I'm talking to myself, monologuing. So, but anyways, enough of that. I'm gonna get going in. Probably need to get in before it gets too late. Hopefully it's not too late right now. But anyways, yeah, going in. I might play more Minecraft, who knows, but I'm kind of feeling like I might listen to some music, might do a little more writing. Heck, I might even try to make another video. Who knows? But do that stuff, get settled in, go to sleep, and we'll see how things go this week. I mean, I gotta take stuff one step at a time, but nice. I was nodding here, but you can't even see it, barely, if at all. Anyways, see you next one, and peace out.